Jerry, thank you so much for coming on to Startup Steroid today. I know you just joined Thai SoCal as the executive director, so that's how we got back into talking. But we've been around the same ecosystem for some time. So I think we met for the first time about 3 years ago when at one of these startup events, and we were both sort of looking to find the right companies to invest in. So I've sort of known you for a very long time, but we just started talking. So let's start this conversation with a quick introduction. Tell me about your background and how you sort of came into this ecosystem.
Sure, thanks. I'm excited to be part of now the Thai SoCal organization officially, and joined as a charter member, and now coming on board as the role as executive director. But I've got an interesting background. I've worked both in the profit and nonprofit sector, so I have knowledge of both and how they intersect, which is fantastic with the opportunity with Thai SoCal. Being there involved in both the profit and the nonprofit sector of the startup ecosystem, which is fantastic. But moved out to California 3 years ago. I had been partly involved in the startup venture capital ecosystem in Phoenix a number of years ago. So over the past 3 to 7 years, I've been involved with this ecosystem. But coming out to California, I did a quick dive into the startup ecosystem in 2019, January, when I moved out here. And I pretty much, for lack of better terms, entrenched myself into the startup ecosystem here. In fact, the interesting side note, Deval, Anshuman, the current president for Thai SoCal, is the very first person that I met at an event when I moved here, the very first person at a networking event that handed me their card, and that we introduced ourselves to each other. So my first initial contact here in California was with the Thai SoCal current president, Anshuman. So interesting story that I just thought about. And so since that time and that event, I have attended countless startup events, tech networking events, investor events. I've sat on investor panels, having represented investors and funding. And so in a short period of time, which 3 years relatively, especially with a year and a half of COVID here, most will consider a relatively short period of time within an ecosystem. I've built tremendous relationships, and I'm excited for that. I'm honored to have done that. But everyone I talk to says, Jerry, you know everybody. And it's like, well, I don't know everybody. There's a lot of people I need to meet still. But yes, I have made a lot of connections, whether it be within, startup founders, service providers, incubators and accelerators, investors, and organizations, angel and organizations throughout Southern California. And my travels throughout the time that I was doing business development work in SoCal in the startup ecosystem took me from San Diego all the way up north to Agora Hills. So I was putting a lot of mileage on the cars, but I consider myself, I hate to use the term people use, but I'm a connector. I'm a people person. I'm a business relationship guy. That's what business development work is, as far as I'm concerned. So, connecting with people, building relationships is my forte. It's what I love to do. And that's kind of been my journey. And I'm excited about, now stepping up into the next step in that journey and working directly with an organization, such as Thai SoCal. So I'm excited about this opportunity.
Absolutely. And you being a connector also makes you such an incredible asset, an incredible resource for founders, investors, anybody who's trying to enter into the ecosystem or is trying to get something done. Because I know in just a handful of conversations that we've had, I've been talking about a project and you're like, oh, you need to talk to this and let me make the introduction. And, that's the kind of personality that, everybody falls in love with. So thank you so much for coming on to Thai SoCal and, now being part of our organization. You're someone we're definitely counting on.
It's a pleasure, and I'm excited about it. So
thank you very much. In addition to that, you're also working with a VC fund. So tell me a little bit about that part of your day and what you're hoping to achieve there.
Sure. I'm a business development partner for VDOSH, which is a small venture capital firm based out of Encino. And right now we're in the process of raising a small $10 million fund. We have invested in some test kind of small funds to test the model over the last 3 to 4 years. I've had 2 exits. Looks like we have a couple companies poised where they could do a couple exits within the next year or 2 here. So we're very excited about the model. We've invested in 3 companies so far to date this year and are looking at doing a handful more before the end of the year. But we're looking for early stage companies. We're a little unique to the venture capital arena because we're looking for earlier stage companies that are just getting into revenue, have very solid traction, and are looking to build and grow. But we're doing checks pretty much coinciding with the same size that Thai SoCal, I believe looks at doing between that 50,000 and 250,000 mark, looking at that seed round, pre-seed round. So not your typical VC that's doing million plus and, those types of numbers, but, looking at that earlier stage, a little bit higher risk and wanting to see those companies grow and exit, within the next 3 to 5, 6 years.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I think that also makes you another great resource for the founders who might be listening, taking notes on your background.
Sure.
You can not only you're connecting them to Thai SoCal and the angel group that we have here, but also with VDOSH. So fantastic. Now let's talk a little about what you're hoping to achieve with Thai SoCal. I know that you mentioned your not-for-profit background in addition to the work you've done in the startup ecosystem. Thai SoCal obviously is a not-for-profit. What are sort of the top things that are on your mind as you join that organization?
Well, I think, nonprofit world is, you've heard me say it before, is my passion. And I'm a firm believer that the nonprofit and profit world have to work together in order to make this world a better place. That's just my philosophy. And hopefully it's the philosophy of a lot of other people out there because I feel it should be. But I believe that this opportunity allows me to come into an organization that's already doing a lot of good by connecting entrepreneurs, successful business people, investors who are part of, both sides of Thai SoCal, and give them the opportunity to connect with those who need guidance, who need assistance, and whether it be young entrepreneurs, even youth, working with youth in schools, that there's not a lot of emphasis in local schools. And I've talked to a number of them where they don't have really entrepreneur programs. And I've talked to schools. I talked recently, I mentioned with the Fresno Unified School District, and they have between their 9th and 12th grade, they have an actual entrepreneur program that helps build young entrepreneurs starting at the 9th grade to where they have an actual business they can pitch, a startup style business they can pitch when they're a senior. So teaching young people and empowering them and teaching them more than just ABCs at a young age, I think is beautiful. So what I envision for my role at Thai SoCal is to not only help build and help grow and empower young entrepreneurs going as early as into high school in those younger ages, but also those college students and even young adult, wherever they might be, but people that might not have the means and necessarily the ability to be able to get, pay a lot of money for guidance and help, but just have some good solid mentorship and then as well, just getting more exposure and marketing for the great work that Thai SoCal is doing, helping increase the relationships with local incubators, accelerators, the ecosystem, whether it's service providers, whatever it might be, because the larger we can grow the Thai SoCal family and community, the more we can help other people and help these young entrepreneurs and help give them guidance and make a stronger impact overall on the community.
Absolutely. And that's such an important mission, right? To build up that next generation of entrepreneurs, because they really are the future. And
yes.
Sorry for being corny, but that really is the next 20, 30 years, and they're the ones who'll be guiding that. So anything we can do to sort of support them at those early stages and help them build, I think will help all of us.
Sure.
So thank you so much for highlighting that. I think that's a very, that's a core mission that we're after. Now let's talk about, I know you may not be involved in the direct day-to-day of this, but the angel group and the investments that Thai SoCal and angels are making. We're constantly looking for deal flow, looking to make the right relationships with the angel groups, other angel groups that might be out there, incubators, accelerators. What are your sort of thoughts around what Thai SoCal Angels is doing?
Well, I think what Thai SoCal Angels doing is fantastic. And, I visited about this before. And Thai SoCal has a unique model because they invest in 3 different ways. You have now your fund your second fund that you've launched, a $3 million fund is the last I've heard that the numbers are. And let me tell you, that's really impressive when you hold a dinner to raise $2.5 million and in 20 minutes you raise $3 million. I've shared that with other investors since that's happened, and their eyes get big and they go, that's unheard of. That just doesn't happen. And anyone who has raised funds, knows that just is unusual and that just doesn't happen. But it shows the solidarity and the commitment and the passionate investors that are part of the Thai SoCal group. So not only do you have that fund, but you also have the aspect of you have all of the individual investors that, regardless of whether the fund decides they want to invest in a startup, the individual investors, angel investors and members of Thai SoCal can choose to invest in whoever they want to as well. And, they could do sidecar deals, up and above what the fund might invest in one of the startups as well. And then there's also the opportunity where a group of individuals within Thai SoCal can come together and form their own SPV and their own little group to do specific investments, which is a beautiful thing that can be done. So you're touching upon, 3 different areas of investing within one group that normally you aren't going to find in the ecosystem.
Absolutely, and that really what gives us flexibility and
a beautiful thing.
Work faster. Yeah, it's an amazing structure. So, having gone through this, if there are founders that are listening that are looking to sort of connect with you or learn from you, what is sort of your advice to them? How should they get ready to enter into this ecosystem to apply to either Thai SoCal Angels or to apply to VDOSH?
Well, pretty much they can reach out to me. There's it's 2 different processes to apply or reach out to VDOSH and apply through Thai SoCal. Anyone interested in looking at the Thai SoCal, right on the Thai SoCal site, the Thai SoCal Angel site, there's a link where the founders can apply to be considered by Thai SoCal Angels. But if somebody wants to reach out to me at executive.director@socal.thai.org.
Yeah, and no worries, you don't have to write this down. We'll have it linked in the description.
Okay, it'll be linked in the description, so we don't have to say that again. Yep. If they want to reach out to me there, I can definitely, send them a link and get them connected to the Thai SoCal Fund. In regards to VDOSH, somebody can email me specifically just at jerry@VDOSH.com. And I have my own link that I can send out that will put them into a platform that pretty much screens the startups that get in contact with me. But, no matter where you're at in the process, there's investors usually at most of those various stages. And if there isn't someone, if it doesn't fit the criteria of the VDOSH Fund, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't fit the criteria of one of the individual Thai SoCal Angels. The beauty is I'm representing and working with different, levels of investors with the role that I'm playing and, working with a couple different organizations. And that's kind of the beauty of what I can do is I can, give opportunities, and then have the relationships with incubators and accelerators. If the companies are earlier than what Thai SoCal or VDOSH are looking for, then also I can get them connected with the various incubators and accelerators around the area, and those relationships that I'm going to build with Thai SoCal with those incubators, accelerators. As an organization, Thai SoCal will be able to say, not quite a fit for us, but hey, if you go over to this incubator or accelerator, they can get you ready for the next step to be prepared then to pitch to our group. And whatever we're doing with Thai SoCal Angels, as those companies are becoming successful, having successful raises, and moving on to the next stage, you know, the relationships with the venture capital firms that are doing the Series A, B, you know, onward, those are relationships, it's all deal flow. It all has to work together. So I'm excited and I'm happy that I've been able to build relationships with kind of investors all along those different stages and the incubators and the accelerators. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to reach out to me, because I can say, hey, this may not be the best connection for you here, but you may want to talk to this person here. And this person may even be able to find you a customer. You know, this person may be a customer, so you can generate revenue. This could be a good partner. Always and never overlook partnering with other startups that could be complementary to what you're doing within the ecosystem is another thing I think that's overlooked a lot. People tend to look at startups as competition if they're in the startup world. And it's like, no, if you're in different sectors, your startups may be able to, you know, join together and, you know, and each other and be a perfect fit for each other. So that's just some of the advice I have right now.
Absolutely. And just in that last, you know, 2 minutes, I could tell that you see the entire spider web, right? You're not seeing any one connection or one piece of it. You're essentially seeing the entire web where, you know, we have all of these players, incubators, accelerators, angel groups, VC groups, more senior investors, private equity groups, and the startups.
Family offices I didn't even mention.
Family offices, exactly. And all of these are part of the same ecosystem. They all feed off of each other. They, you know, they share the deal flow. They all, you know, once you graduate from one, you go to the next. And the founders that are coming in that see this mess of organizations and people, they really need help navigating that. So I think that's, again, that makes you a fantastic resource, the fact that you're able to, you know, lay it all out and be able to visualize it. So if the founders are about to connect with you, you know, we're putting their your email address, your LinkedIn profile, everything in the description. If they are about to reach out to you, what is one thing that they have to get done? By the way, this is my final question to everyone I interview. This is the action step. We want to leave founders with always something to do. So what is the one thing they have to get done today, before they send you that email? What's the important thing in your mind?
Good question. You surprised me with that one. You didn't prep me for this question. I would say, make sure you know what your why is, why you're doing what you're doing and why you are reaching out, and make sure you know that. And especially, you know, LinkedIn probably is the best way to connect with me, because then I can connect on all fronts. But the important thing is that, you know, cold connecting is never the best option as far as I'm concerned. It's always better to have a warm connection. And that's other advice I can give on how to do that on LinkedIn without, you know, sending out cold messages immediately. Oh, this guy's in the investment world, so we're going to inundate him with, you know, hey, here I am. But I think if somebody genuinely says, hey, you know, I saw your interview on Startup Steroid and interview in regards to Thai SoCal Angels, and would really like to connect with you, whether it's getting some quick advice or being pointed the right direction or how to find the link, just be able to tell me why. You know, why you're doing what you're doing. And that would go miles, because I want to, you know, I emceed a major pitch event a couple years ago here. Kevin Harrington was one of the special investors on that panel, and I emceed that event. And I believe might have even been the first startup that pitched. When they were done, the first investor grabbed the mic and kind of says, you know, if you want us to be excited about your business and your startup, the least you can do is look excited about your startup and business. You know, and I'll never forget that. And it was so dead on, because you got to have a passion and spark about what you're doing. And that has to show, whether it's via an email, via an interview, via elevator pitch in an elevator, or at an event. You know, we need to see that passion. And a lot of that comes from the why. You know, why am I doing this? And so be able to communicate your why to me when you first reach out to me.
That is fantastic advice. And I think that is advice that's true for everybody across the spectrum.
No matter what they're in. Yeah.
Exactly. Because as an investor, I can tell you that in the first 30 seconds, I can tell if the founder is passionate about the idea or if he's just doing it to make money. And if he's there to just make money, he's going to get tired. If he's passionate, he's going to run through brick walls to get it done. So I completely agree with you. Fantastic advice. Jerry, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, Deval. I do.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Thank you, everyone.